Okay, welcome back, everyone. Clearly, one of the highest privileges of serving as president of the APDS is we get to pick the keynote speaker. And so often when we find out that we're going to be doing this, which is about a year and a half in advance, there are two things that pop into our minds, which is who are we going to invite as a keynote speaker and what is my speech going to be about? So here you get to see the answer to the first question. And so I'm really delighted to introduce our next guests. This is a picture of one of my favorite places in the world. This is the Kimmel Center on Broad Street in Philadelphia. Within are two absolutely magnificent concert halls. This is the larger one. This is the 2,500 seat concert hall, currently called Verizon Hall, and soon to be called the Marian Anderson Hall, designed by the world famous architect Raphael Vignoli. So this is a picture from my favorite vantage point in the Philadelphia Orchestra Hall. This is the Philadelphia Orchestra, founded in 1900, seen here actually at a recent performance. Actually, I'll be there Sunday. We're putting on the Mozart Requiem. My son and I will be there. The Philadelphians, as they're called affectionately, are part of the Big Five. So those are the five most prestigious orchestras in the country. And for those who are keeping track, that also includes the New York Philharmonic, the Boston Symphony, the Chicago Symphony, and the Cleveland Orchestra. And leading the cello and bass sections are our two speakers today, Yumi Kendall and Joseph Conyers. Yumi Kendall began studying cello at the age of 5 following the Suzuki approach. At age 16, she made her solo debut at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. with the National Symphony Orchestra. She attended the finest conservatory in the U.S., which is called the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, and then was recruited to the Philadelphia Orchestra immediately in September 2004 as the assistant principal cello. In 2017, she earned a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in applied positive psychology. And her interest in organizational psychology and development stems from her belief that classical music's powerful role in human flourishing is strong, and the importance of cultivating healthy organizations as pathways to serve the arts and public community. In addition to a busy performance and soloist schedule, she regularly teaches at Jefferson Medical College medical students in their music and medicine seminar. Our other speaker is Joseph Conyers, also a graduate of the Curtis Institute, also recruited to the Philadelphia Orchestra as assistant principal bass in 2010. He had also previously played with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, the Grand Rapids Symphony, and the Santa Fe Opera. He was appointed principal bass in 2023 and also has other leadership roles within the orchestra itself. Mr. Conyers leads the Philadelphia All-City Orchestra, a remarkable program which collects the best young musicians from the school district of Philadelphia, which is vast. He also serves as director of artistic development for the prestigious Tanglewood Institute, which is in Massachusetts. It's a product of the Boston Symphony, and is also a faculty member at the Juilliard School. Conyers has written, quote, "I believe there's more to life than just being a great musician. I have always felt I was put on this earth to make the world a better place. If nothing else, the world has shown me that the earlier we make an impact in someone's life, the greater the influence we can have in creating positive change." Yumi and Joseph met at the Curtis Institute and have become lifelong friends. They collaborate frequently, both musically and in their joint quest to spread optimism and hope through music and civil society. Together, they've embarked upon an outstanding series of podcasts, which I would highly recommend to you. It's called Tacit No More, and the QR code is here that you can pull that up. It truly gives me absolute great pleasure to introduce our 2024 keynote speakers for the APDS, Joseph Conyers and Yumi Kendall.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Amit Joshi, for having us here. We're thrilled to be here in beautiful Orlando. Thank you to the APDS for hosting this fabulous convention. We are thrilled, as I said, to be here. And you just heard a brief excerpt from Rossini's duo for double bass and cello. And Rossini was a composer from the 1800s, an Italian composer. And he was known especially for his operas, both comic and serious. And we chose this selection for its humor and its musical conversation. Perhaps you heard the themes go back and forth between our instruments. Sometimes we played together as our voices equally. And we chose this kind of as a lead-in into what we would like to share with you in our time together today, which is that we will have a conversation up here. We would like to share our stories, our inspiration, our inspirations, our backgrounds that led us to who we are today, to where we are today, and maybe something for the future.
That's right. We are, again, really happy to be here. Anytime I see a palm tree, I'm very happy. So thank you so much for having us.
And because we, as Dr. Joshi introduced, we are both longtime members of the Philadelphia Orchestra. I've been there for 20 years, and Joe since Tuesday, June 1st, 2010, 3:30 p.m.
That's right.
He won his first, that was the assistant principal position, and then last May for principal. But because we've been longtime members of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and that is the core of so much of our work and our passion, we thought we would play a short clip of us playing, like Dr. Joshi introduced, of us playing in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and this time in Carnegie Hall. Whew. That was the thunderstorm from the Alpine Symphony, this soaring, massive work with lots of notes, and sometimes there's a joke from the cello section. Anybody need a vacuum cleaner back there for everything that's going on? But that was Carnegie Hall, one of the most prestigious concert halls in the world. It's in New York, and the Philadelphia Orchestra goes up several times a year to play on our series there. And other than the Amtrak, Joe, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Well, as the saying goes, practice, practice, practice. We practiced a lot, practiced our instruments a lot. As young people, practicing is our daily habit, and it's just something that makes us who we are as musicians. I thought we'd tell you a little bit about how we got started. My hometown is Savannah, Georgia. Anyone been to Savannah? It's a beautiful place. Okay. My hometown, Savannah, Georgia, and I first started on the piano at the age of 5, and I started the double bass at the age of 11 because I have a twin sister who plays the cello and an older brother who plays the violin, and they were always running off playing with people, and I was always by myself on the piano. So after feeling alone over 6 years, the double bass was put into my hands, and I haven't looked back since. I grew up in the traditional Black Baptist church, in which gospel music is very prevalent. That's very much part of my being. And what's neat about gospel music is that to join the choir, for example, one does not have to audition, me, do their scales, all this fun stuff. The whole point of singing in the choir, at least my home church, other churches might be different. My home church, the reason you sing in the choir is because you want to make a joyful noise. So everyone had a place in the choir. So that literally was the soul of my playing and how that I express. Technique was important, the practice was important, but what I want to say was most important. I also stayed like you mean. So musicians, as we grow up, we can find ourselves alone a lot of the time, practicing by ourselves. And what that takes is a lot of intrinsic motivation, a lot of inward motivation. And I love music, you mean. From the depths of my soul, I love music. And so that was really easy. But when you're 5, 6, 7, sometimes that intrinsic motivation can wear off. So I had a lot of extrinsic motivation. For those who have been to Savannah, Savannah is a very hot place in the summertime. And as long as I was practicing, I did not have to go outside and cut the yard or pick the weeds in the garden. I could stay in the air conditioning playing my scales, which is what I opted to do. But over time, the music continued to grow inside of me, and it became part of my life. And I knew, so much so, that I didn't want to live a life without it. So with time, I ended up going to the Curtis Institute of Music, as Dr. Joshi said. And that's a picture of me on my senior recital with my bass teacher, David Warschauer, and a member of the Savannah Symphony, George Hofer. And the Curtis Institute of Music was a really special place. Sometimes I may not have felt like I belonged just because of its prestige. I didn't know about it until a few months before I auditioned. There are many notable alumni, including Hilary Hahn, if you've heard that name, Long Long, or Leonard Bernstein, Yuja Wang. As a matter of fact, Yuja Wang and Long Long were our classmates, and Hilary was around while we were there. But the other special thing about Curtis, as Dr. Joshi said, is where I met Yumi Kendall. And Yumi, I assume for you, it took a lot of practice to end up at the Curtis Institute of Music and ultimately the Carnegie Hall stage.
How did it start for me? As Dr. Joshi mentioned, I did start with Suzuki. Does anybody here play an instrument, or someone close to you play an instrument? Many, yes. And have any of you heard of Suzuki education before? Wonderful. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's an approach to music education that was founded in Japan post-World War II by Shinichi Suzuki. And following the atrocities of World War II, as a Japanese citizen, he was very concerned about the welfare of the next generation of Japanese children, and he wanted to create some way of influencing and helping people become good citizens. And he observed that, how is it that all children learn how to speak? And he was fascinated with this concept. The Suzuki method is also called the mother tongue method. We learn by ear. And he transferred what he believed were the ways that we learn how to speak: positive reinforcement, repetition, imitation. We imitate those around us, a cooing baby, and our reactions to them. We help each other learn to speak with these elements. And the same approach he took with transferring to learning how to play musical instruments for very young children. So that's the essence of Suzuki education. Fast forward, my grandfather, my American grandfather, not my ironically Japanese grandfather, my American grandfather was a violin pedagogue in the US, and he found out about this. And he was fascinated, and he went to Japan and learned and studied with Suzuki, and ultimately brought Suzuki education back to the Americas in the 1960s. John Kendall, he's often credited as the pioneer of Suzuki in the United States. And so when your grandfather introduces a method of education to the continent, you're probably going to be learning that method. And so lo and behold, at holidays, we would all be everybody in my extended family played an instrument, and we would all, much like a joyful noise, you show up and you participate. It was playing string quartets with the second violin subbed out for French horn because Uncle Christopher had that available, and sorry, Mozart, or asking the neighbors to come over to fill out the alto part in Handel's Messiah because we needed that, or inflicting Christmas carols in 4-part harmony on our neighbors at the holidays. It was all just very joyful music making, and that was part of our human daily experience. Speaking of which, my mom would say, "Oh, my children only practice on the days they eat." Doesn't matter if you're sick, it's your birthday, holidays, special occasions, camping trips, you practice day in, day out. And her sense of discipline has now become my own spine of discipline. So with the joy and the discipline I have, thankfully, from Suzuki, my Suzuki education and my environment, I just have this identity as a forever student. It doesn't stop.
Yumi, Suzuki obviously has had a profound impact on your life. Now that you are along in the profession, how does it affect that mindset? How does that affect you in your professional life today?
Well, one particularly trying moment for us, actually, in the Philadelphia Orchestra in 2011, the Philadelphia Orchestra went through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization. That was a psychologically traumatizing experience because we as musicians had no say in what was going on. I don't like feeling helpless. I like to know how I can contribute. I like to know how I can make a difference, even beyond just being super prepared and nailing it on stage at Carnegie Hall. I like to know how I can be helpful. And the forever student in me kicked in. I wondered, amidst the helplessness of my colleagues in the organization going through this 18-month difficult transition with bankruptcy court, and wondering if the judge is going to see that we only work 20 hours a week on stage, not understanding all of the backstage individual preparation time that takes to get to that point in a concert. Would I start flipping burgers? What was going on? There was so much questioning happening. And I started to ask, we certainly can't be the only ones going through struggle. what do other industries do? What do other organizations do? What do other people do when they're met with challenges? And I read a lot. I found myself in the business section at Barnes and Noble with a lot of red books, like the business section with power and leadership and authority and motivation and all of this new language for me. And it was fascinating. I ended up connecting with Adam Grant, who wrote a particularly powerful book for me called Give and Take. I emailed him and he wrote back and connected me to actually the Positive Psychology Center at Penn. And the rest is history. I found out about it. I met the professors, I applied, and I enrolled. And in 2017, I earned a master's of applied positive psychology. It's the science of well-being. It asks what makes us flourish as individuals in a dyadic or relational level, in work or in personal lives, at work, in our organizations, in group settings as a society, at all levels of human of our human interactions. Once your physical needs are taken care of, your biological, you have a place to live and your food is taken care of. Once those basic necessities are met, how can we flourish? And for me, that was really one of the most inspiring communities, domains to be learning about, and ultimately, hopefully, gradually transferring back to our beloved Philadelphia Orchestra.
And we needed it. A lot of orchestras at the time were struggling, particularly during that time. There's always a bit of a lag after the market crash of 2008, and we really needed it.
And well, we could ask ourselves now, what does musical flourishing look like collectively on stage? Here is a joyful, exuberant moment from Mahler's Symphony No. 5. Please enjoy.
You mean?
That's the feeling, yes.
Absolutely. We are so lucky. That's
Yes.
amazing
Yes.
to be able to have worked on our craft for so many years, joined so many others from all around the world in this shared experience for an audience that's open and appreciative. It's really a joy and a privilege to be able to do that. You know, for some musicians, that literally is the top. That is the end.
And why not?
Absolutely.
Kind of.
Absolutely. It's exuberant, it's fulfilling and gratifying. But for me, as Dr. Joshi hinted, that has not been the end. For me, music is not just an end. Music is a means to an end, many ends. Because I feel music is a gateway to so many other possibilities. As Dr. Joshi mentioned, I'm on the faculty of the Juilliard School, and I work with a lot of talented students from all around the world. Yumi's familiar with this. She works with a lot of talented students from all around the world who play so well, who are so proficient. Their technique is at a level that, honestly, makes me very happy that I have my job that I currently have now. And all they want to do, Yumi, is play louder, higher, faster, louder, higher. I mean, just, it's all about that. But I have to remind them that being a musician is not about being a technician. It's actually about being an artist, being a musician. And in the music world, we talk about this because there are technicians, people who play very well, but don't necessarily hit the heart in that.
It's like Pablo Crisales,
Yeah.
the cellist, Catalan cellist and humanitarian. And he always said, I'm a human being first, a musician second, a cellist second, and a cellist third rather, but we're all human beings
Yes.
first.
Yes,
And I think that raising the bar to remembering why
correct,
is not just the technique,
correct.
that we're all human beings first.
So that we can then on the stage, connect with our audiences on that human level. We can connect with joy. We can connect with heartache, pain, sorrow, disappointment, ecstasy, desires, all these things that make us human. That's why music is so important to me. So then the performer transitions from solely an internal solo experience to a fully external communal experience as a musician. So we've examined on a micro level, talking about our practice and then ultimately ending up in an orchestra. I want to move on to the macro level. This idea that we have this orchestra now in a community. How does the orchestra fit in that community? What is the orchestra's role in that community? So I'm gonna have to go back to Savannah, y'all, back to church. The church I attended was between two housing projects. There was a lot of need. And all we did at church, basically every day of the week, was figure out how could we address the needs of the community that we were in. What could we do to help someone? So that's always been in my DNA as a human being. So it's no surprise then I'd ask, how can I use music as a tool to help other people? It's not just for me about playing the notes. When I was young, we were going to a family reunion. My dad is from a small town in in Georgia called Bainbridge, southwest corner of the state. There's a lot of poverty there. And we were in the car, just driving by, and there are these kids, completely oblivious to all the troubles of the world, playing on the porch. And my mom made this fleeting comment that has stuck with me my entire life. And she said, among one of those kids could be an Einstein, a Mozart, the cure for cancer, another Martin Luther King, and we'll never know. And those words have haunted me ever since. Because why was I afforded opportunity? And they were not afforded those opportunities so that they could develop and build up their practice to be contributors to the world. My parents grew up in the segregated South, both with very, very, very little means. Very, very, very little means. And it took a community. It took people seen and unseen, heard and unheard, to provide them the pathway to find the success that they had. So that this little girl from Yamacraw Village, growing up in Savannah in the late 40s, early 50s, with nothing, could hear classical music on the radio and dream about being an opera singer, singing on the world stages, and dream that one day her children would play classical music, only to have her youngest son end up being the first African-American principal of a string player of a major orchestra in the world. Remarkable. So Yumi, it's not just a choice for me. I must use my music, my practice, to pave a way for someone else. And I do this through my many endeavors. I have a nonprofit organization called Project 440, where we use music as a tool, music as the lens to teach high school students the life skills needed to thrive, particularly in the 21st century. So we don't actually teach music lessons. There are many organizations in Philadelphia that they do that work fantastically. We literally use their interest, their passion, to help them develop these skills so that they are competitive in the marketplace when they go off to college and join the workforce. I'm the conductor, the music director of the All City Orchestra, students of the School District of Philadelphia. Now, if you saw the clips, there aren't many people in the orchestra who look like me. Most of the time, I'm the only one in the orchestra who looks like me. However, these kids see me as their leader, they see me on the stage, and they know that they too can have a place on the stage of soon-to-be Marian Anderson Hall in Philadelphia. This apprenticeship model that we have as musicians. One thing you can't do as a musician is learn how to do it by reading a book. You probably won't become very good. What we have to do, it's a practice that must be passed down from person to person, from generation to generation. I wasn't principal in those videos that you saw. I was sitting next to my teacher, my mentor, Hal Robinson, former principal bass of the Philadelphia Orchestra, who's also my teacher at the Curtis Institute of Music.
Which position we each won through blind competitive auditions. So even though Hal was very glad to be sitting with you, there was a committee behind a blind audition blind screen that evaluates all of the applicants to be hired rightfully.
Yes.
So you earned it, not just because you were a prize student of Hal.
Well, because Hal has a lot of pride students. The audition process was very scary and lasted a long time. But that apprenticeship model is something that is passed down and actually gives me faith, hope, and joy that I'm passing down this beautiful tradition that has evolved over the years, is part of every culture. This tradition that I can then pass down for the next generation so that it's better, and oftentimes they are, than where we are, which is the whole point of this. The whole point of education is that our students end up performing better than we do because they get the resources to be able to do that. Y'all, I'm not supposed to be where I am today, but thanks to many who believed in me, who prayed for me, who made a way for me, I have a duty to pay it forward. It reminds me of a song by singer-songwriter Iris DeMint out of Arkansas. She wrote this song called Working on a World. Now, y'all, I'm not gonna sing because I'm not a singer. But I will recite some of the lyrics for you to hear. I got so down and troubled, I nearly lost my head. I started waking every morning, filled with sadness, fear, and dread. The world I took for granted was crashing to the ground. And I realized I might not live long enough to see it turn around. Oh, but then I got to thinking of the ones who came before, of all the sacrifices that they made to open up so many doors, doors I got to walk through on streets paid for me by people who are working on a world they never got to see. My grandparents, my great-grandparents were working on a world that they didn't get to see. My parents have seen me perform in Savannah, Georgia, in rooms and halls that they weren't even allowed to enter into as children. They still persevered. I'm about to play for you an old Negro spiritual, Walk With Me, that I sang in my home church as a child. And just as this song has reverberated for generations, bringing hope to the hopeless, I too want to use my craft, my passion, my practice to bring hope to the world.
Thank you, Joe, for thank you for the gift of gratitude and for changing this space into a rather sacred space now with many emotions that I'm sure we're all experiencing and reflecting. And I'm reflecting on my own profound moments. And one that comes to mind also with my cello. My grandfather, the American one, the Suzuki one, was nearing the end of his life. And he was in hospice with extended family in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I had driven up there to be with family for the holidays. This was about 10 years ago. And I had my cello with me to maybe get a lesson with him, or maybe we would all play together, the others of us, in the traditions that we always used to at the holidays with great joy. And I thought maybe I should go and see if I can get a lesson from grandfather. Even he's in hospice, but he's still here. In fact, the nurses told us he was very belligerent. He had become a really stubborn and very difficult old man nearing his end. The nurses were really sick of him. And he was just a very difficult, just a troglodyte, just a misanthropic curmudgeon. It's just very uncomfortable to be around. And so I thought maybe I would play for him. Maybe I would get some lessons with him as a forever student. We always, even as a 30-year-old, I was eager to keep learning. And I took out my cello and I asked for a lesson. He was in his hospital in the bed. And I first consulted with the nurses and make sure that was okay. And maybe grandfather would take a nap and get some rest and have some calm. And I ended up playing for him the Swan. I was trying to play through all of the slow pieces that I could think of, and you must connect more between the F sharp and the B. Make sure it's connected and smooth and relaxed, and all of these. Was that grandfather with this? And so our lesson continued, and his interjections became more calm and less frequent. And indeed, over 25, 30 minutes of playing, I played through all the 6 suites of Johann Sebastian Bach, the Sarabands and Allemands. These are the slow, contemplative, peaceful movements in the Bach suites, from the Saraband. And I just played all of these through, an arioso from a Bach cantata. And after about 30 minutes, grandfather finally fell asleep. And that would be the last time I'd see him alive. And I think about that profound moment of bringing peace to the person who gave me the gift of playing cello. And I think about transferring that back to our concert hall, back to the 100-person orchestra in the vast 2,000-person the audience. And in every moment on there, somewhere out there is grandfather. Somewhere out there in the vastness, in a concert, someone is receiving this music and will be transformed for it. They will leave the concert hall with maybe a greater hope for what the world can be, maybe renewed love for somebody who is present or not present, maybe joy, like the exuberance in the Mahler Symphony when everybody's in this collected, visceral, virtuosic effort all together. And I think about that and my own purpose and making a difference. And as a mentor and connecting with students at the one-on-one level in a group setting, what all of this connection can mean, what this meaning at work, how much meaning I find in what I get to do. And I think also about positive psychology, the science of well-being, and the research that shows a greater association, a greater meaning at work is associated with greater life satisfaction and better health and greater work satisfaction, even fewer sick days. And I think about all of that beautiful research from the science of well-being and my own experience and our own daily lived experience that we get to imbue with this sense of really profound meaning, and how we can use that from ourselves within to help the next generation, to help open the doors, be it through that connection with a student, be it through our experiences in the concert hall. In what ways can we help the world? In what ways can we help the next generation?
Yeah, I think it would be really neat to think about what that next generation could do. I mean, what if that next generation took up that forever student concept? That they were always learning, that they were always developing. I just celebrated a birthday just last week. And I realized over time that my practice has evolved based on my own life experience. So for me and Yumi, the two of us, our practice has evolved into a podcast called Tacit No More. Tacit coming from the Latin meaning silent or quiet.
Literally in music, in the symphony, when your part, let's say second trombone has been playing and then a movement comes and the composer doesn't have a part for you because your voice is not, the part says tacit, like no part. You do not have a part. You do not have a voice here. So tacit no more also has implications for how we've felt maybe in the industry up until this point, not having a space to talk about things that need to be talked about.
Right. It's a landing pad for positive discussions about our belief in the power of music to better humanity. It combines Yumi's expertise in positive psychology with my own work on the ground in the community through music. And what we love about this is it allows us to imagine what our work in classical music as an industry, how it could look if it were different,
Yes.
if we did things differently. It just gives us a space, a safe space to imagine these things and to speak out loud about them.
And in our positions of secure jobs as tenured musicians,
Yes.
it's almost an obligation, like you feel from your from your family's history.
Yes. Yes.
There is a sense of obligation. It's not even a choice. It's I am in a position of privilege. Therefore, we need to open doors. We need to pave the way so that those who've been through, who are still going through some struggle and do not have the security of what we have, they may have an easier time to then make the flowers grow even more
Yeah.
bright and make the music shine and reverberate even more.
Our tagline is asking the questions that need to be asked and saying the things that need to be said. And we like to emphasize the asking the questions part. We're always asking questions because we feel that will help us develop into people, into an industry with solutions.
And of course, asking questions is what forever students do. We never stop growing and we never stop learning, and it just keeps going for us.
Absolutely.
And as we think about those questions, and as we begin to close our time together today, I'm reminded of the question at the end of a story I'm reading these days with my 3-year-old daughter, Phoebe. The book is called Miss Rumphius. Are any of you familiar with that book? Or as she's called in the book, the Lupin Lady, for sowing lupin seeds. Here is the end of the story. My great aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Sometimes she invites my friends and me into her home, and she tells us stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, says my aunt, but there is a third thing you must do. What is that? I ask. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say, but I do not know yet what that can be. We may not know right now what that can be, what our purpose can be. For some of us, it may be clear, and for others, it may take time. But like Miss Rumphius, who sowed seeds that became beautiful lupin flowers all over her town, so too do we plant seeds in the lives of the people we are able to through our practice, through our performance. One more?
I'm speechless. I'm not even sure how to say thank you. Just to put it in context, and I explained this to you when I asked you to come speak to us. First of all, these are all my friends. But second of all, that these are program directors in surgery and administrators in surgery who are shepherding the next generation of surgeons to go out and take care of patients. And so as I think about your speaking to us and your impact on us, it's not just an impact on us, but it's on all the lives that these people will touch and their patients' lives. So I just can't thank you enough.
Goosebumps.
The word token is perfect because these are really just tokens. But I would like to present you both with tokens of our gratitude from the Association of Program Directors in Surgery. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.